Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Let's take a look at our first literary period in English literature, which is the medieval period. And we're lumping together Old English and Middle English in this unit here. What's interesting is that when we look at the name of the course, English literature, and what it is, it's a survey course. And just in case you're curious, a survey course touches upon many different works, and it really doesn't single out one or two for a deep dive and exploration. So we'll be like a stone skipping across the top of a pond. So what's interesting, when we look at these words, English literature survey, you'll see the three primary languages that come together to give us the English language. The word English is from the Germanic languages. The word literature is from Latin, and then the word survey is from the French. So here we see German, Latin, and French, which in the coming slides, we will look at the sequence and the interminglings of these languages to give us the language today that we call English. So England before the English. If you're familiar with your history and your geography, England is part of those islands off the coast of Europe. And in antiquity, the Roman Empire was the world's superpower, and they expanded and swallowed up the English Isles. And when the Romans arrived, of course, there were people already living there in the land that today we call England, and those people were referred to as the Britons. And today, we call these people the Celts or the Celts. These were the populations that built the different features, such as Stonehenge and the other henges that are in England today. They had, of course, their spoken language, which we will call the native tongue, but their written language doesn't survive. The Britons were quickly absorbed into Roman society, and so then we have their spoken language, the native tongue, and then we add to that Latin. But when the Roman Empire started to crumble, the Romans said, well, it was nice being here, guys, but we got to go. So then they packed up and left, leaving the Britons behind. Now, other nations, other tribes, once they saw that the Romans had packed up and left, they said, well, now it's our turn. So this is when groups of pagan people from Northern Europe, and by Northern Europe, we're referring to Scandinavia, which is present-day Sweden and Norway, as well as northern Poland, Germany, Denmark, right? That part of Europe began a series of invasions of the British Isles. And today we call these people the Anglo-Saxons. They were the Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes. And they brought with them Germanic languages. And here's something that's cool, y'all. We still have influence of their language on the days of the week. How cool is this? For example, Wednesday is the day of Woden. He's the father of the Norse gods. Thursday is Thor's day, the god of war. And in case you're curious, these are the people today that we call the Vikings. And on a little side note, I had my DNA done, and guess what I am? Yes, my lineage is traced back to the Anglo-Saxons, and it's been traced back to Northern Europe, right? This part of Northern Europe, like Poland and Germany. And my forebears traveled this same path from like Northern Poland, Northern Germany, Denmark, to England and Iceland to America, which is pretty cool. But that's not going to be on the exam. Okay, so by 600, the Anglo-Saxons had pretty much conquered the Britons. And so the influence of German gets stronger, but it still has some Latin. So at this point, we have the native tongue mixed in with Latin, mixed in with German. And in case you're curious, if you were to build a time machine and travel to England at this time and listen to them, you would not be able to understand what they were saying. It's really not English. Now, the Anglo-Saxons' two urgings, their two driving forces, war and wandering, become part of the oral tradition. And what the oral tradition refers to, it refers to in antiquity, books, literacy are the exception to the rule. Basically, 90% of the population is illiterate. So what people would do is that they would preserve knowledge through word of mouth. And this also is true with the period literature. Perfect example is Beowulf. Beowulf is part of the oral tradition of the Anglo-Saxons. It was brought over to England by the people who came in and invaded and populated. And it was told by Scots, not Scopes, Scots. What Scots were, these were people who would travel around and they would tell these tales, such as Beowulf, over a series of many nights. Because before radio, television, internet, the only thing there really was to do at night was to sit around the fire and tell stories. And that's what these Scots did. And one of the stories they told was Beowulf. So we will continue our overview in the next lecture.